Hello and welcome to Flippin' Through the Internet's #1 Mad Magazine news, review, and interview channel. And I'm very excited. It's the first live stream interview of the new year. And I'm very excited to welcome Keil. Keil, I'm just going to bring him on right now. I said it right?
Said it right.
Keil. Okay. That's good because I've said it every other time I've said it incorrectly, but the time it matters.
I've heard them all.
Yeah.
And I never correct people.
That's my last name is McInerney, and it's spelt as complicated as it sounds.
Yeah.
And I should just adopt that and just be like, no, you got it right. Perfect.
Yeah.
Like however they pronounce it. Yeah.
And then finally they'll hear it the right way. And like, I've known you for 10 years. Like, then they get mad at me.
Yeah.
Like, well, you said it wrong. It's my fault.
So Keil, you're an artist and a writer, and you've worked for many years, almost like a full decade. You were working for Mad Magazine.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
The how did that get started? I mean, yeah, how did you wind up with your first appearance in Mad?
So, well, as far as starting, I mean, I probably have a very similar story that you've heard, that rite of passage of discovering the magazine as a reader. And I just grew up loving it. And I loved making comics. I loved reading Mad Magazine. It never occurred to me that I could be in Mad Magazine. It didn't seem like a thing. It just felt like the people who made it had always made it and always would make it.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a sense that I would ever pitch or submit, but it definitely informed my sense of humor. And then like a lot of people, some people phase out of it, or you phase in and out of it. And I stopped keeping up with the magazine. And then I guess it was about 2008, 2009, I was self-publishing comics and posting artwork to the internet, as one does. And the weird kind of way that me and Mad both got back on each other's, or I got on their radar for the first time, and it came back into my life, was I had done this series of illustrations they were like mashups of classic hip hop album covers, but with superheroes and comic characters.
Yeah.
It was like superhero remix or something like that. A lot. It's been done a lot since then. It'd been done a few times prior to that. And it had a little bit of a comedy element to it. And it caught on with music blogs, and it caught on with like comic sites a little bit after that. And someone tweets at me just that they liked it, and I look at his Twitter handle, and it's Ryan Flanders from Mad Magazine.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that's dope. You work for Mad Mag. Like, it was like this blast from the past. I was like, Mad Magazine. And I'm talking to somebody who, so now I'm like, oh, I actually think this is a human being who works for Mad Magazine. Like, I knew you were real, but I didn't really think I would ever make contact. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
And in a really out of character thing for me, and just kind of like a big internet doofus, I just was like, I've met him 5 seconds ago on Twitter of all places, and I'm just like, how do I get in Mad Magazine? So I'm sure they love that question.
Yeah.
And but he was real patient, and he was like, he walked me through the channels. He was like, well, hey, if you want to pitch, here's how you do it. And I jumped right on it. I mean, I was like, whoa. I had to go back and find what Mad Magazine looked like then. So I went through that whole experience, like a crash course of there's color now. That's how long it had been since I had picked it up.
Yeah.
There's real ads now. I laughed at like an Old Spice ad for like 30 seconds before I realized it was real. I was like, this is such a spot on parody. This body spray, it's hilarious. And then I realized, no, they're running real ads. So like but what was even more striking was how much like hadn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
So it still felt like the voice and the sensibility was there. So yeah, I started pitching right away, and I guess that would have been like 2009, early 2010, but probably late 2009. And it was a lot of no's, a few maybes. Quite a bit of we've done that before. This is the cool thing. I mean, I always got a kick out of it just because there's such a tradition and and people have been there for so long, because why would you quit that job? So
Yeah.
you pitch something that you just thought was so clever and so topical, and they'd be like, "Yeah, no, we did that in '83." I'm like, "Oh,
This
yeah, I guess
idea was super fresh, just
yeah,
like a couple decades
yeah,
ago.
you just missed it." You're right though. Parents are lame.
Yeah.
No, but politicians are corrupt. But take another swing at it. So they, so I got a lot of rejections, and that's part of the process. So eventually, I sold one. The first one was called Superhero Origins Gone Wrong, and it ended up being like a little Fundellini piece. And
Yeah.
I wrote and drew that one. What? There it
Yeah.
is. I mean, that was there. I haven't looked at this in forever. This is crazy. Whoa. So yeah, there's the first panel that we all know of the superhero origin, and then the little flip at the end of I could
Yeah.
have done
Well,
differently.
they're all. I had a question about this. I'm a really big DC guy. That's like
Yeah.
those are the superheroes I care about, and they're all DC characters. Is that just like you were most familiar with those ones? And
I
that's
didn't have any brand loyalty. That is interesting. I don't think I picked up on that. And I don't think I knew that they were part of DC Comics yet at this time either.
yeah,
They probably did.
yeah. They were like, oh
I'm
yes,
not sure. I'm not sure if DC did. Well, what's funny about this one is that I pitched like the first four, and they were like, "Hey, this is like the first time you get the wiggle on the line." You know what I'm saying? They're like, "Hey, you got something here. Why don't you?" They're like, "Send us more." And I'm
Mhm.
like, "What?" So I did a bunch more, and then I sent it to them, and they're like, "You know what? Less was better." So
That's our mistake.
yeah, they're like, "You got too." Yeah, I had too much dip on my chip, but so it was a quarter pager, and then it was a 2-pager, and then it went back to a quarter pager. I had never made the DC connection. I would say that I was a little bit more of a Marvel kid growing up, just because that was a little hotter. But of
Yeah,
course, Batman was amazing. Like Superman, when Superman died, I was just kind of like, I jumped wherever the hype was. Superman's dead, I'm there. Batman's got a movie out, I'm there.
yeah.
And I read
There's a
all of it.
secret war. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
enlist.
Come on.
Well, that's you mentioned this other thing. I'm like jumping around a bunch right now. The mashups. Is this what you were talking about? Like this is right off
This
your website,
Yeah, this is in that
kennykeil.com.
vein.
All
Oh
right.
wow. Yeah, okay. This is kind of, I mean, it's similar. This isn't one of those images.
Okay.
But that's a thing I do. This is a GI Joe classic cover.
Mhm.
I think before we got on, we were talking about where we're from. I'm from Louisiana. I got a special affinity for Southern hip hop and No Limit. So this is kind of in that vein. This is sort of flipping what I did. What I did originally was the album cover art, and then I would
Oh, okay.
redraw it. So like I had Straight Outta Compton, but it was Thor and Loki and all those guys. So it was Straight Outta Asgard, and they're like
Hmm.
looking down with the hammer at
That's
you.
that's really because there was like very recently. Here, I'm going to make us larger. Really recently, Marvel did that. Um,
Yeah.
like that exact thing what you're describing.
Shout out to the House of Ideas. They did do that. They did that, and about maybe 6 or 7 years after, and I had done it, and I wasn't like, I mean, look, I don't own the characters, I don't own the idea. Um, and there were a few other artists who were kind of contemporary. We're all friends now because we're like, oh, we're into the same stuff. Like the fact that we were making these covers kind of almost at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, and then when that happened, I mean, I woke up and like I had all these texts and notifications, and they're like, "This, what do you want me to do? I don't own Spider-Man. Like,
Yeah.
I don't own Atlantic Records. I'm, but
Yeah. What
but
do you,
they,
yeah,
yeah, they,
yeah. What can
it
you
was,
do when you own neither of the things that you have combined? But it is yeah, that's strange. I like 'cause there is that thing like you were saying with friends of yours or not even like contemporaries, like parallel thinking, right? Like it's not
yes,
unheard of for people to come up with the same idea.
no, it's very
Um,
common.
but 7 years later.
Oh no, I mean they saw our work. I mean that's like that's not parallel anymore. That's a different math thing that I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, no,
quadrilateral thinking. I
exactly.
don't know.
Yeah, we got rhombus. I don't know what
Yeah.
happened, but
Dalton Vaughn
but
is here, and he's actually he's upset because he's been saying Coil, Kenny Coil. So you're gonna have to talk to him after this
Dalton
because he's been making a fool out of himself.
Oil. That's the one way I've never heard it.
Um,
Coil. It's Coil now. I'm
yeah,
sorry. We have to start over because it's Coil now.
yeah. I'm here. Please welcome Kenny Coil.
I like it.
Yeah. So you came in with doing like I'm trying to pull up the things. Like I shared earlier, just this like that first appearance of yours where you were an artist writer. And then I noticed like going through the Mad cover site, you like shifted primarily into the writing part of it.
Yeah.
Is
They
that
got me out of there.
yeah.
No. I so like yeah, I mean, man, look, I can say a lot of great things about the Writing Man magazine, but like there's something about illustration that's so immediate.
Yeah.
You have to read a joke to know if it's funny. You got to get to the punchline. But when you see dope art, and I mean the illustrators that Mad Magazine has, I'm going to say I honestly enjoyed that shift. What was happening was that I was sending them a lot more pitches.
Mm-hmm.
I was becoming a regular, and at one point they were like, "Hey, you know you can't draw all these, so we're going to just send us your writing, and then how would you feel about other people drawing it?" And for me, that was an upgrade because, I mean, I'm in awe of just the display of illustration prowess and the diversity of styles that you would see in that magazine every issue. And that was the reason for that shift. Because for the first couple issues I was in, as I recall, it was like a little quarter-page Fundolini every issue. It's coming out every other month. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty manageable workload for me. But then it's like you start lining up because of that space between issues. I'm still pitching almost on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And so I'm figuring out who I am, how I write. I'm figuring out what they respond to. So I'm getting more in as a writer, and it was just kind of like just the right call to make.
Yeah. Well, and a shout out to madcoversite.com. I mean,
man,
what would we do without Doug Guilford? It's
Doug, what an amazing resource.
Yeah, it's well, actually, he's going to be. I just talked to him, and he's going to be my next interview. He's going to be on next month, so cool. I'm pretty excited to talk to him about all that. But like, if you go to your section of the Mad cover site, it goes from like one thing, an issue, to like by the end you have like 5 or 6. Features or gags or whatever the term is. You've written 5 or 6 things that are
laughers.
Laughers is what we're shooting for. Chucklers, knee slappers.
I'll take a chuckler.
Yeah. But so all right, that makes sense then. I mean, it's like you are producing more than you could physically do as an artist yourself. Is there, like, I'm not going to ask like who your favorite artist was to work with, but is there somebody that you were especially excited to have illustrate your work?
So, I mean, one thing is I didn't know. I didn't want to know. So when you say work with, it's interesting because, I mean, they'd tell me if it was like, or if I asked, they would tell me. But I wouldn't always ask, and they would be busy. They had to keep me updated on stuff once my job's done, and they have a great central editorial voice. And then they hire the artist, and then they bring their touch to it. So one of my favorite things was having no idea, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what's this going to look like when I open it? But I would say like to have like when there was a Hamilton, I did like the historical inaccuracies in Hamilton, and then Sam Viviano was a fan of the show.
Hmm.
And so he was like, I guess he wanted to draw it. Like he didn't, he worked at the magazine, but he wasn't drawing pieces anymore, like all the time.
Yeah.
So that was special. I'm thinking, oh man, I was just spoiled. There was too many. I remember seeing like Jose Garibaldi's art the first time we got teamed up, and I did not know his art.
Hmm.
What was interesting about that was that sometimes it'll throw you off. You don't know what a person's like by their art, but sometimes you can look at somebody's art and like know what they're into.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this dude's like a hip hop head. Like I already know. Like I'm looking at the little Easter eggs and the way he draws people. I'm like, there's like a graffiti funk to it. And sure enough, now we're like, and it turns out we're like neighbors. So
Yeah.
back when people still got together, we'd get together and talk about music. He's a DJ. He does all this stuff. As far as working with an artist, the time that was really like a fusion like that was probably like Justin Peterson
Okay. Yeah.
on Dewey Derwin, because in that case there was a little bit more. That was like a big, heavier creative lift or something. So we had to have a little bit more interaction, and it was this regular recurring thing. So that was like a deeper kind of collaboration than I had before with Matt.
Yeah. I want to talk about Dewey Derwin, but is there, well then, like, I forget, because you're not the first person who said, like, they do kind of keep artist writers separate in a lot of cases, not like intentionally, just because they have a lot to manage. They're not
Well,
like,
it prevents uprisings.
yeah.
You see,
We don't talk to those plebeians, the artists. But they say that to both sides.
Exactly.
But is there like an artist that you were like when you actually, no, I'm going to change the question. I'm sorry. Did you find that were you ever surprised at how an artist would interpret what you've written? Because I imagine if you're writing something, you're visualizing it in your own mind, especially as like an artist yourself.
Yeah, I suppose so. I wish I had a better answer for this question because it is a good question. Um, but I guess I just didn't put that expectation out there too heavily, or more likely, because there's 2 months between issues, and sometimes you wrote something 9 or 10 months ago. So not only am I surprised by who drew it, I'm surprised I wrote it. I'm like, don't remember this.
Yeah.
So it's just a treat for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and that's like
Yeah.
sometimes with my questions, I forget, like, as somebody who's doesn't work in a creative field, I look at every single thing that I've ever created on my own as incredibly precious and special.
Yeah.
But like you're creating so much that you can't like.
Yeah, man. I don't know. That's part of it. I think everybody's got a different personality and a reason for why
Mhm.
they approach art the way they do. I'd say that because I am an artist and writer, one thing that I'm lucky is that if I want to be an artiste and control it all, I can do that. I can
Yeah.
go in my room and write and draw a comic, and no one else can touch it. If I want to do that, I can do that. I find it a little more fun to bring other people in to the mix, and I'll get it finished because otherwise, no one's waiting on me.
Yeah. You mentioned Dewey Derwin and working with Justin Peterson.
Yeah.
That's his name, right? I
Yes.
hope I said that correctly. And so you guys worked. This is, I think, like the third issue of,
Mhm.
or the third installment of
Yeah.
it. I mean, the concept being, there's the Dr. Heinous, this supervillain who gets, through no fault of his own, of course, gets transported back to
No, he's a genius.
his childhood, his adolescence, and has to figure out how to get back. And you were saying that you guys worked a little bit more closely, which makes sense, like because it's a recurring, like a serialized story.
Mhm.
How did this come about? Is this something that you began together, or you pitched independently? And
Yeah, let me think. Okay, I think I had the general vague idea of a supervillain having to go back to middle school or high school. I think that had been rolling around in my head in a while.
Mhm.
I think from having a kid and seeing how kids, you have a kid and you're like, hey, I want to tell you about Batman and Superman, But kids are fascinated with villains. My
Yeah.
kid's like, tell me about this Lex Luthor. What's he about? The Joker. Because like I know the rules, but what's up with these guys who don't seem to ignore them? What's that about?
Mhm.
So I think that started me on the basic idea, and I didn't know what to do with that idea. I had worked on it maybe as like a independent comic strip and then abandon it. But and I think you've probably heard this because I know you've done a lot of digging into like the Warner Brothers uh, getting more and more hands on with Mad,
Yeah.
and they wanted more original characters, right?
Mhm.
Because you can't make a starchy movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they were like, well, what's some more characters along the lines of like Spy versus Spy, something that could theoretically like develop into other stuff. And so, they asked me if I had any ideas, and I gave them sort of the basic idea of what would become this. I don't even think his name was Dewey Derwin yet. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it was the basic pitch, and I was like, okay, like I think it fits with Mad because it's going to give him. He's in the age group ostensibly of that when you're starting to read Mad, and he's a villain, so he's got this sort of subversive take on authority. He hates pop culture. He hates being his age because in his mind not only is he a grown up, but he's like this very powerful evil super genius. But
Yeah.
now he's trapped. It's like reverse Big. He's back in his old body, and he's trying to devise a way to get out. But you can see in this example, he can't even scheme a decent scheme because he's got to do his chores, right? So, and I was like, I made the dad like an aging '90s rap head
Yeah.
as a thing also that I am. But so I guess I pitched it to them, and maybe there were some other ways they were. I don't even know if they were sure they were going to put it in the magazine yet. There was always this is like a couple of years of conversations, right?
Okay.
And then Ryan Flanders was like the art editor, and he was basically almost always was my direct person pitching, even though he was an art editor. That's how I got to know Mad. So I just kept pitching to him.
Mhm.
So he's got like an amazing eye for how to match the writing with the art. And so he was the one who brought in Justin,
Mhm.
and he would show me Justin's sketches, and I'm like, oh, he's like, it's so dope. I'm like, it's so much doper than the sketches that I was doing. Like I pitched them little sketches when I was pitching them the idea with no intention of drawing it myself, just like, here's kind of how I see them.
Yeah.
And it was just so much fresher and so much more life. And then it just made me see the story more clearly, right? So then it really took off from there. And I guess, we had this serialized thing. It was like 4-page stories, installments, chapters. And I guess it went for maybe 6 issues
Mhm.
before the, everything. What happened? I don't know. They stopped answering my emails. Have you heard anything? What's going on? I don't know.
No.
But we got to close it out. We treated it like a season, and like, oh well, will we get a second season? I don't know, but let's just give it a good ending that would be
Yeah.
satisfying. And that was a blast to work on.
Yeah. It ended right before the reboot, um, which was nice. But like one of the things that I liked about this, and I'm curious if this was um, intentional at all or on your mind at all, but like those early Mad comics and how, I mean, they were able to go more into storytelling, and
Yeah,
obviously, they did that big shift where it was like almost like just making fun of magazine culture basically.
yeah,
And then like, so I was very excited when I saw that because it was like I'm a big comic book guy, and to see comic books returning and like an actual story being told was exciting to me. Was that like on your mind at all? In
yeah. Somewhat. I mean, because I came from loving comics and Mad, and I probably didn't know about Mad's comic book past
Mhm.
until I was already working at Mad and sort of wanted to dig more into their history. I'm like a student of this stuff. I was a little intimidated to come on the show because you know so much about it. Like you're like a professor of. If I go outside, I'm gonna be the smartest person on my block
Yeah.
about Mad Magazine. But I come in here. This is like another level. So I do know a little bit about the comics, and I had like the
Yeah.
digest. They would do these digest reprints that were like digest book size,
Yeah.
but then
Yeah.
they would flip the comic sideways. You know, I'm like second generation Mad fan, so I have like my dad had old collections, and then there was like a Comixology sale, and I bought up all of the digitally all of the Mad comics, and they are crazy.
Yes. All of that
There,
EC stuff it's
th-
unbelievable.
there's that whole Fumetti issue about the life of Bill Elder.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like it's got the Picasso cover.
I don't know if I have that one, but like I have, like they did some reprints. Like this is Russ
Yo,
Cochran did.
yeah,
This is issues. Oh no, this has to be. It's among them because this is all the way the entire collection, like reprinted in like large format. And
yes.
I don't know. I still haven't read through it. I had to make sure my wife isn't listening. I paid like $200 for this, and I still haven't read it. Yeah, so I got to figure out that. But yeah, it's
Take some time.
yeah, I got to take some me time.
Yeah,
But yeah, so like though, I mean, one, I appreciate that you think that I'm very learned about this because the comment section corrects me often.
well,
And I'm thankful for it, but it's yeah, there's just so much to like to it, but
yeah. There's a lot of angles because you've got the collectible angle through Facebook. I've seen these Mad groups, and I'm just astonished by the knowledge and just all the ways you can be a Mad fan. I guess
yeah. Well, and I was more of a casual fan. Like I had all of the issues. Like I had subscriptions my
Yeah,
whole life, and
yeah.
so I have all of those still. But then, like, basically from doing this, I got more into the specific artists and learning about the specific
Mhm.
artists and their styles and who influenced who. And then now I'm having these conversations, and I
Yeah,
get to learn even more about that.
yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who are artists like Dalton Vaughn, like talking to him, he was like, yeah, but also like there's this other guy. I'm like, okay, hold on, slow down.
Yeah,
I gotta
yeah.
learn about this now too. But
Mhm.
is there as a comedic writer and artist in the sense of Mad Magazine, I'm not familiar with your work previous to that. So I apologize if you were not doing all comedic stuff, but is
Yeah.
it, I have a sense that comedic writing is much more difficult than comedic drawing. Is that correct? Would you say?
Might
How do you
depend on who
feel?
you ask. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know, man. Gosh. I don't know. I mean, they both come with their challenge. That's such a stupid answer. Maybe I'll just say something just so we have
Maybe it's
something
a
to go
stupid
by.
question. I don't know. But
Comedic comedic writing is pretty tough. I mean, comedic art can be you can be so bad at art that it's funny. I don't know if you can be so bad at writing that it becomes funny. Maybe,
yeah,
but
I
I
don't
would
want to find
yeah.
out.
No.
Um, but I guess
Oh.
like what you were saying with you had mentioned before, like sometimes an image can just like kind of slap you in the face. Like there
Yeah.
is like an immediacy to certain
Yeah.
illustrations where you can get a reaction
Yeah.
from it. And so like I guess that was my thought process on it. Not to say like it is an easy thing to do, but that with
Right.
writing, comedic writing, it comes with its own challenges that
Okay,
are
so yeah.
unique to it.
So like when Don Martin draws somebody flat-footed and then my camera? And their
Yeah.
toes doing this, that's
Yeah.
going to take a lifetime to master, but it's going to be an easy laugh. You know what I mean? There's a difference.
Yeah.
It's hard work on his end, but it becomes very easy for the reader because I'm just laughing like an idiot just in my head just thinking about it, or
Yeah.
just a good splort, or
Yeah.
just the way he would draw. Like yeah, like but that's not easy what he did, but it's easy to like receive the information. I always
Yes.
struggled with they do the Mad 20 dumbest. They do the Mad 20 every year, the
Yeah.
20 dumbest things, and that's the one time they tell you what they actually are looking for in topics. I could never get it. I could never get one in. because it was pure image. It could be a Photoshop, it could be a drawing, but they were going for that big immediate visual. And my
Yeah.
brain is just a little bit more like I'm looking at the chicken fat in the drawing, or I'm trying to write like the little twist that you didn't see coming, just like in the text. Like I get a little, I enjoy those details more, and I'm a little bit better at them. I don't know which came first. So I could never get one of those sold. I could barely even pitch them. I couldn't wrap my head around those kind of assignments.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and like what you were saying with the Don Martin, John
Yeah.
Caldwell is an artist I really like, and he was an artist writer. And there was like,
Yeah.
I forget, one of the things was the joke was like a drive-through proctology clinic. And so, which that's a funny concept, but
Yeah.
you know, the immediacy was this guy like shoving his ass out of his car into like a McDonald's drive-through window.
Yeah.
And so like that was very funny.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's like both of those are funny concepts, like whether you read it or you see it. But you know, yeah, I don't
John
know.
Caldwell's amazing, but it comes from the same brain. So like, would he even? When you're doing that, do you even discern between the writing and the art? I don't know. I don't know what the process was there. Another one of my favorites of like the recent years was, of course, I'm going to not get her name in the right order. Teresa
Parkhurst.
Parkhurst, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like another writer artist, and I mean, I just always love seeing her stuff, and she's still in the New Yorker. She's
Isn't she also like a college professor, like teaching this stuff too? I might be getting her mixed up with somebody else.
I didn't know that, but that's cool. I don't know.
Yeah, she probably, if she isn't, she probably could. I mean, she's an extremely talented writer and artist. All right, one of the other you brought this up earlier, which is the Hamilton thing. And like you said, you are, if people follow you on Twitter, which they should if they don't, is it at Kenny Keil?
Coil.
Yeah. Coil, that's right. Well, I was calling you Kenny Keil.
It's a coil back.
Yeah. You are big into music, and like you can see it, like with Dewey Derwin, there was he was like Rob bass, like here, listen to this cassette tape. And so like this is one where it's kind of a nice blend of your two loves, which is what are your two loves? Comedic.
I'm waiting to find out.
I don't know. I don't know why I said your two loves. But like you get to combine you get to bring in music into your work.
Oh yeah.
But this like, I mean, were you big into Hamilton when this came out, or was this I mean,
no, I didn't really.
It seems like this came before Hamilton really outside of New York blew up in the way it did. You know, now you have, it's in Minnesota now. So it's moved in
Hamilton,
from the coast.
It's in Minnesota now. That's from, man. When you cross over to Minnesota, that's another level.
It is.
Yeah. I don't know. I wasn't. I would say that my connection did not come from a love for Hamilton. But that's where, other people brought the love of Hamilton in. For me, it was hip hop on Broadway, and it's the founding fathers, but they're rapping. And I tried listening to it on Spotify, and I don't think you can give any musical really a fair shake by just listening to the music.
Yeah.
So what I was hearing was like, I would enjoy mocking this, and but look, like this whole love thing. I'm gonna just speak on that real quick. Like, and this is something I think I got from Mad, or I just was always in tune with Mad, is that the things that are most fun to make fun of sometimes are the things you love the most. So that's why I'm not making fun of, like, I have no hate for Hamilton. Like I put Lil Wayne in a piece. I'm making fun of Drake. Like, these guys have a lot of things that I can laugh at, but it doesn't come from a place of mockery of mean
Yeah.
spiritedness. It's just like, so there were things that I loved about the traction that Hamilton was getting in the culture, and the fact that so many people were loving it. And that's kind of just in general, if you see how I kind of look and see what's going on in culture and what are people talking about, and do I have an angle on that? And that's how I would decide what to pitch, because I looked at each issue almost like, okay, this is good. This is kind of like a time capsule of where we're at right now, or where we were last month, or where we're still going to be in 3 months. You have like a little time window. So I'm like, what should we be talking about to
Yeah.
be relevant? And Hamilton, yeah, it was before it, it wasn't on Disney Plus or whatever yet, but it was, and thankfully, this is a New York magazine still. So for them, they're like, yeah, Hamilton. Some stuff you'll pitch them, you'll think it's huge, and they'll be like, no one, nah.
Yeah.
They'll be like, Drake, nah, never heard of him.
Get out of here, you hayseed.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but this was something that was relevant to them. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
You brought something up that I've brought this quote up. I don't know, like every single interview, but like making fun of things that you love and you care about. There was like some interview that Norm Macdonald was doing. I think he was talking about being on SNL and doing impressions.
Yeah.
And he was like, the most successful impressions are when the actor or the comedian actually likes or has some affinity for who they're mocking. Because otherwise, it's like if you just hate them, that comes across. So there has to be at least one part of them that you like. And, I mean, he wasn't known for his impressions, but his who is that guy? The guy with the mustache and the cowboy.
I want to call him Turd Ferguson.
Yeah, it's like,
which doesn't say much about the impression, but it does say a lot about the performance.
Yeah, he likes him. Like he likes to play this character who is based on I don't know, is it Burt Reynolds?
Burt Reynolds. Yeah. Reynolds, you got it.
Yeah. And so that's like I really enjoy that you said that, because I, as a reader, I get the sense that, especially now there's like the dunking on comedy, where it's like, it feels more like, how can we humiliate this person rather than how can I make people entertained or laugh or anything like that.
So, yeah, I think, first of all, just going back to the making fun of things you love and hate, keep asking that question, because there's really good answers for people who I hate it. Like I was on a Mad panel. I was watching the Mad panel at this point at San Diego, and they got that question for movie parodies. Is it more fun to make fun of a movie you liked or hate it?
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than a person, but I was surprised. They were like, they hate it. Yeah. So as far as that dunking thing, this is, there's a lot of things that are, you can look at The Onion, you can look at social media, and you can see how they kind of have taken what Mad did and taken it to another level. But I still say that there's one component that Mad had that I wish I saw more of, and I haven't really seen fully embraced by any one entity, is that, yeah, they would tell you, like, don't trust authority, don't listen to the media, everybody's stupid. But they would also say, like, we're the media. We're the usual gang of idiots.
Yeah.
So that softened everything, because it didn't feel this dunking humor and just the general uptightness that sometimes we encounter you get on social media, you want a million people you don't know. And of course, everybody's worried about being embarrassed or stepping on someone's or whatever have you. But you need that sense of humor about yourself. And I think it helps you say more about the world, at least for me. If it's something I really care about, I don't want to come off preachy. I don't want my anger to stifle the joke. I want people to connect to what I'm saying. And I think for me, what has always been effective, and I think I learned it from Matt in part, was to be like, I don't have it all figured out either. So if I can laugh at myself, while I'm also telling you this guy's an idiot too, I don't know. I always, as a reader, I find that it really effective. It sticks with me. And then as a writer, that's just how I enjoy communicating, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you touched on like the idea of Mad not taking itself too seriously, with like the usual gang of idiots, and like Um, like the letter section to me is a good example of that, where it's like people write in and it's like sometimes it's like glowing, like, oh, I loved this, and other times it's like, hey, listen, dummies,
Yeah,
why
yeah,
this is why you're so horrible. And to me, that is almost being a little bit more sincere, which I guess as I say it, it sounds like at odds with itself, but um,
right. And I'm sure if these, I'm just thinking of everybody I know who are so mad, and if you said the word sincere around them, they would, you
yeah,
know. But like, but I mean, everybody I met there like is a sincere, like sweet, whole human being. Anybody that I've had to interact with that had a connection with the magazine, yeah, there is. I think maybe there is something to that, but yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, sincere the word or just disarming.
yeah,
Your guard goes up, even if you know if I agree with you and you're really letting somebody have it. That's one thing, but it can you know I can also get a little guarded around that kind of energy.
yeah.
But if I see that you're willing to laugh at yourself, I can laugh at myself. Like you've given me permission to laugh at myself too, and we can look at the world together and be like, what the hell is
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah. Well, and that's like that's why like comedians are especially good at that, like stand-up comedians, because half of their act typically is making fun of themselves. So that when it
Mhm.
does come time to like make fun of somebody else, um, it's not offensive. Like, you know, you could look at uh he's like the biggest comedian right now, and I can't even remember Dave Chappelle. Right. Like
Yes.
Dave Chappelle does a lot of jokes that many people, if they attempted to do them, it would be like that's punching down.
Yes.
But somehow it works for him because he is also the butt of many of his jokes, and he's willing to sort of make a fool of himself sometimes.
Yeah, I will say that sometimes he strays into issues where I don't feel like I have a place to criticize him, but I listen to people who do because he's not talking about my experience. He's talking about someone else. And if they're offended, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to hear you out. Maybe you got a reason for that.
Yeah.
But but first impression, what I hear when Chappelle talks about those things, maybe he crosses the line, but he's also talking about his own inability to learn from it. Like he's trying, I can see the struggle of this guy trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like something like there's an understanding I had, now there's this new information I have, and it didn't feel like punching down. If people say it's punching down and they're the actual one, the thing is, if he is punching down, he's not hitting me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not going to get in that debate about it. Is he punching down or not? I don't know. Ask the person with the black eye. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't in the fight, but as far as first impressions, when I watched, you know, some of his more recent specials, I mean, he said some wild stuff back then too that
Yeah.
he would have gotten called out for, but it was just the temperature was a little different, or maybe you were mad, but you didn't have a device that you could share your anger with. You just had to look around at who was in the
Yeah.
living room with you about your take. But yeah, but no, I see what you're saying. Like, and he's a great storyteller, and he's just such a compelling speaker, and he does have that. He has that. He always turns it around back at himself at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the chat real quick. Remember, in an issue of Mad, they try to make fun of Up the Academy, but they give up because of how bad the actual movie is. Yeah, I never
Yeah.
saw it, but I also never heard very good things about it.
Yeah. I haven't sought it out. I've never watched it. The screenshots I've seen look like nightmarish.
Yeah.
But what are they got the statue, well, they had the statue. I got to go to the New York offices the summer before they packed up.
Mhm.
What did they do with that statue? It says
I'm not sure.
it's a great line. They changed the plaque somehow, and
Yeah.
I'm blowing it, but everybody knows it sucks apparently, and
Yeah.
that's on brand though. It's on brand for them. It'd be
Yeah,
weird if imagine if there was a Mad movie and it was like a critically acclaimed darling.
there
I
would
don't know.
be
The
something
cognitive
wrong.
dissonance would hurt.
Yeah.
It'd
Well,
be
and
like,
I have here's a fun fact. It's not that fun actually. Here's a fact about the movie. Robert Downey Jr.'s father directed it.
oh, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that was the end of his career. I'm not sure.
Hey, I don't know. I don't know. I've seen Putney Swope. I haven't seen anything else he did. That was a
Yeah.
different time in cinema.
Hi, Kenny and Patrick. Kenny, I liked your No Donald children's book
Oh
parody
yeah,
scene in number 545. Do you want to talk about that? I don't have that one prepared.
yeah, that was cool. Thank you for that. Yeah, so Donald, guess which Donald? It'd be Trump. You
Oh,
remember
it like took me a
he was
second to put that
president.
together.
So yeah,
Donald.
there's been a few Trump pieces in the magazine, and I know I'm sure you're sick of hearing people come on and talk about that guy, but he was a challenge to write pieces for, just because he did too much dumb stuff too fast,
Yeah.
couldn't keep up, and he would be sometimes too mad to make a joke about it, or he would out dumb you. You know, you can outsmart people. He would out stupid you, and you couldn't write something stupid enough. But I had an idea about, and it was based on this children's book I used to read with my son called No David.
Yeah.
And it's these, and they nailed the art style of that book. And it's just this, the whole book is just this little kid running wild around the house. And it's just no David, he's knocking over things. No David, no David, every page. And that's what, I mean, I don't want to, hey, you're quick. Yeah. So there it is. So
I have a producer. That's not true.
so yeah, so this became No Donald.
Yeah.
Because those are like the only two words that I could come up with to describe my relationship with this administration at the time. So oh man, yeah, look at that. I mean, if you're not familiar, the thing about these parody styles, if you're not familiar with the source material, they hit a little different. But yeah, he's knocking over a fishbowl or something on the original cover, and oh yeah, Sam did that.
Oh, Sam
too. And Jim
Viviano.
Campbell with colors. Yo, man. See, man, I was spoiled. Look at this.
Yeah.
Now I gotta draw my own stuff.
Yeah.
Sucks. But
Well,
this looks great. Yeah.
I would not have guessed this as being Sam Viviano, because I mean, Sam, like his caricatures are so specific to him. I mean, it's like you can spot his work from afar.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I think maybe that's, I didn't make the connection. These are great caricatures, but they are and you immediately recognize them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's more impressive when you can just put like a triangle and two dots on a circle, and people know who it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hey, look. I mean,
oh,
who called it? Who called it?
Yeah, look at that.
That was 2017. I was trying to tell y'all.
We should have listened. What other things?
Yeah, every piece that I've done has a prediction about the future.
Yeah.
I got Powerball numbers in there, you name it.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to start going on eBay and buying up all the hip hop albums that you reference in your pieces in hopes that they skyrocket in value.
Any day now.
Yeah. What is, like, I'm very interested in, with an artist, many of the artists at MAD, they receive this script and they do the illustration. But you are starting, from whole cloth. What is your process when you are getting ready to do a pitch? How does it make its way into the Ryan Flanders's mailbox?
Typically, it would be like, I would think of an area, right? Like a topic. Here's something I think you guys should make fun of, and I'd like to write it. And so I would send him the heading of the topic, maybe it's the title of the piece, and then it'd be like 3 or 4 sample jokes. And a lot of the pieces are they kind of have like a David Letterman top 10 list mentality. Not everything, and I tried to break out of that as much as I could, but that's kind of what it would feel like in the early stages of writing. Unless I had a different take, like, I'm going to do Yelp reviews, or I'm going to do like this handbook for substitute teachers. If the format was special, I'd go a little more in depth. But for most pieces, it would start like, here are 3 or 4 sample jokes, and it'd be like the line that you would see accompanying the drawing, and then a real simple description of the drawing.
Yeah.
but again, with the understanding that whatever gets turned in is going to just blow my thought out of the water. But I would do my best to imagine something of here's kind of how it would look, and I would send, just so you don't put too much time into it and have them be like, nah, not for us. I
Mhm.
would maybe do 3 or 4, and just send them off and do a little vibe check. And if it was a no, it was a no. And if it was a yes, it was always give us more. They might be like, yo, this could actually be like an article. You up for it? Like, you want to write a lot of these?
Yeah.
And then some, that was always a great feeling. And then sometimes they were so like, sometimes I'd be like, whoa, wow. It's never like, sometimes the ones you just, this is going to be a home run. I can't think of any examples, but they're like, no, it doesn't do anything for them. And then this really obscure thing that I just did for my own entertainment, would sometimes get traction. So I never really knew. I'd have like
Yeah.
good feelings about some that would play out sometimes, but I never got to a point where I was sure.
Mhm.
So I was like 50-50. Like for every piece you saw in there was like 4 or 5 pieces that got rejected. And for every joke that I wrote, there were probably 10. I can't
Yeah.
write one joke. I can write 20 jokes, and then it's up to you to find the funny one. It's like a little game. It's like a little game. I think
But
editors like that.
yeah. Well, they're like, so this is, like what you're talking about, rejection, and that's like a very common theme for all of
Yeah.
these. And like I need to like make a compilation of this. I'm a teacher in my day job
Okay.
and I teach writing. And so like
Yeah.
every once in a while I'll be giving feedback and I'll see like the sort of like wet eyes, like, and
Oh
it's like,
man.
listen, okay, man, this is great. This is a great start, but we need to grow.
Yeah.
And like like rejection is important. And I know this sucks and this feels horrible, but get out of here
Yeah.
and come back when you have
Yeah.
something. Of
Yeah.
course I don't say that, but I just like for like kids who are wanting to get into writing, knowing that level of rejection and that like one, you can get over it. And
Mhm. Yeah.
it's like not just like part of it, but it's not part of the job, but it's part of growing
Yeah.
as a writer or artist or anything like that. Um, is rejection good or was I wrong?
I might like it too much. I might just have like a weird writer masochism thing because I just never felt like it was going to be my last idea.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I sold one, I would feel that way. I'd be like, I'm done now. After this, I got nothing.
Yeah.
But if I ever got rejected, I never felt like that was like, or they were wrong. I mean, there'd be like somewhere I'd be like, oh man, I don't know. I think this could be something, but you know,
Yeah.
so be it. I'll just come up with something else. So I tried to look at it as almost like maybe they're doing you a favor sometimes. I mean, people can be wrong, but they might be freeing you up to work on the thing that you're supposed to do.
Yeah. It's like that weird, it's that annoying thing that people say, like everything happens for a reason. It's like,
Mhm.
well, maybe, but
Maybe.
maybe this also sucks.
Yeah, maybe that's the reason. It's for it to
You
suck.
mentioned like doing things that are like more closer to your heart, and I believe.
Uh,
Wait, did I not? Okay, here we go. Is this? I believe this might be one of them. The
yeah,
common mistake.
this is a good example of when they say yes. I'm like, really?
Yeah,
Just because, like, rap. I mean, I don't know how much in the public consciousness of a rap battle is. It's certainly not something that we all do in our day to day life. And it's just a small little piece, but that was a treat for me. And
yeah,
then Jose being the artist, I just love the anytime there's like a background crew. He draws like the craziest and like party flyers and like party scenes for his own DJ set. So this kind of has, which I don't think I knew that at the time, but this kind of has that energy.
yeah. I
These are
don't.
tips.
Like I love you. You mentioned liking to go into the background and looking at the chicken fat and those like
Yeah.
smaller details. And I one of my favorite artists for that is Jack Davis. Like
Yes.
looking at backgrounds, he doesn't um he doesn't like ever waste a face. Like if he's drawing a circle, he's going to give it all of the facial features.
Uh,
And it's so cool. Like Jose's artwork in this is like it's like that. There's no
yeah.
just circles. It's full on faces for everything. It's like it's so cool. And it's almost like uh some blend between uh maybe like a normal version of like if Tom Bunk was normal. No offense if Tom
Trying
Bunk
to
ever
picture that.
like he has like just all of these like various faces and stuff. I love that.
Yeah.
Did you work with
I'm
Jose?
I'm, I'm picturing Tom Buck like the guy like he works in finance. You've given him a whole new
Yeah.
No, yeah, but I love that. Never waste a face. Never waste a face. You should trademark that.
Did I say that?
You did say that. He didn't waste a face.
Yeah.
Because you look in then these kind of drawings and it's like these could all be characters. Like I want to what's that dude's deal? What's up with her? Like yeah, they all tell a little story and they just add a little bit of flavor to it.
Is he wearing a Mr. Dibbs shirt? Is that
Mm,
Dibbs? That's what it looks like.
I believe so.
That's delightful.
Well, not surprised. And that push, that artistic push is something you got to learn as a writer too. Like, he could have probably just done a basic background and it maybe would have been fine, right? But and the same thing with writing, like pushing yourself to find that like, okay, maybe you know what the joke is, but sharpen that punchline and maybe is there even like another twist you can put at the end of it? And that was something that I always tried to push myself to do if I was working on a longer piece. You might spend your whole day writing lines and think that you've exhausted it. And then you go for a walk or you go to bed. And then you wake up the next day and maybe you got nothing for a while, but then it starts to flow again. And you realize how much you didn't do on the first pass.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of so that part of the process where those faces become characters, that happens in writing too, and that was like one of my favorite parts of the process where you kind of surprise yourself.
Yeah. Is there so this just popped in my head. I'm not sure why. Well, I guess I was reading this one. A common mistake to avoid: humiliating your adversary with a rhyme so devastating that it makes the ride home together super awkward. And so like this is kind of a long shot to make a connection with, but how do you feel like looking back at your own writing? Do you ever, I mean, like right now I'm forcing you to look at your own writing, but like how does that feel? Like, I mean, like, I don't know, like when I hear my own voice, like the first time I heard my own voice on recorded, I'm like, oh, that's horrible. Fix that now. And so
I try not to. I don't really read. I'm sure there's something to be learned from doing it. But I just don't. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. I feel you with this. This is going to be the one episode of your show that I won't ever watch. But like, but yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily cringe, but it's just hard not to. What other mindset can I have other than, oh, here's what I would have done different. Here's what I would have fixed. But I don't know. Maybe I need a little more time from it. This isn't bad. You put up. I would never pull that out on my own, and you put it in front of me, and it felt I internal screamed a little bit, but I'm okay. I'm having a good time, I think.
All right. Well, now I mean I want to show another one. Are you prepared mentally?
Let's find out.
This is the stages of relationship after Netflix and chill.
Yeah.
Which I mean, this is deep.
Deep. And some life stuff going on.
I mean that like totally unironically. This couple goes through everything.
Yeah.
I mean, this is for those of you who are not familiar with it. So we have like Netflix and chill. This one I love. The guy just hanging out in his underwear, Snapchat, and wait for a chat back. Which I mean, like there are some like that one feels I might be reading too much into your connection with music and hip hop, but like that feels like that has like a cadence to it. Maybe I'm
Wait for
reading
them
too
to
much
chat back.
into it. Spotify, keep a toothbrush at their place. YouTube and viral video proposal. Amazon and register. LegalZoom and prenup. Pinterest and overly obsessively decorate. And wait, I read that wrong. I'm sorry. IRS.gov and argue. This is my second favorite, Ashley Madison, and apologize profusely. Followed by Pornhub and sleep on the couch, Blue Apron and reconcile, and then Netflix and chill again. I don't know. I really loved this one. This is brilliant writing, and I have no question. I just want to say that.
Well, maybe we'll just leave it at that. I really love this. And this is one where I don't remember. I mean, the words are mine. I don't remember. I love how the design utilized the Netflix branding. And
Yeah.
I love that the story that this ended up telling. Maybe I had some idea that it was the same couple throughout the whole thing. Maybe I didn't though. I don't know if that was me or not. But yeah, it really told a story. And again, like breaking the format of, what I maybe would have typically done in like the Fundalini or reasons why, sort of like this one sticks out a little bit to me too. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
Shout out to that's John.
Oh yeah.
Wait, who?
John Martz.
John Martz. Yeah, I love. Yes.
Yeah, I always try to, when I'm going through this, remember to mention everybody involved. So thank you for reminding me. So for you, this is kind of going back to like all the way to the start, and doing so extremely abruptly. Is there like how? Do you remember like the first time you read a Mad magazine? Do you like not the Mad magazine, but like that sort of like first exposure and like what that feeling was like? This is supposed to be the first question, and I forgot to ask.
No, I remember the day I was at church. I wasn't in the church, but we had gone to church, and it was either before or after. I'm in the van with the family, and I guess my dad runs into the bodega. We don't call them that in Louisiana. It was the corner store. And he comes out with a Mad magazine. And I'm already drawing all the time. I'm reading comics, but I'd never seen a Mad magazine before. I didn't know what that was about. It was the 1987 or 88 Gross Out special. I was like 7 or 8. It was way too. I still look. I love all of the Mad stuff, but when it gets into the body fluidy, oozy stuff, to this day, that's not where I hang out. But that's what that issue almost entire. I need water. The issue was all that. It was one of those specials, right? It was like the gross. It was just boogers and farts and things. And a lot of all the jokes went up. The art was like, okay, this art is amazing. Like, how do they draw like that?
Yeah.
Like, how does a caricature look like a cartoon and somehow look more like a real person than a real person does?
Yeah.
There was just all these little revelations, and I didn't get any of the jokes. But that was like when you're young, you don't get anything anyway half the time. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself. A lot of stuff is still going over my head to this day. That's just the world you live in. So that's not like, I loved X-Men because I didn't know what the hell was going on. So it just made me like hungry for more. Like, so that was the appeal. So and I guess I would pretty soon after they I got a subscription, and I was just hooked from there.
Yeah. So what does Mad mean to you now? That's my Charlie Rose question. Wait, no, I can't.
Now, there's definitely a way to look at it and be sad for what's not there currently, but I can't help but just be grateful. It was a huge part of my life. It's still a huge part of my life. I was a tiny part of it, and that's amazing to me. And I made friends, and I told some jokes, and yeah, it's not something I ever imagined for myself. But I'm just, yeah, I guess I'm just like grateful, and I think its philosophy and its spirit lives on. I see it in cartoons that my kid watches. I see it in his sense of humor. I see it in interactions that I have with people every day. So yeah,
All right. Very good. Yeah. Excellent. I don't want to forget that you have a life after Mad Magazine.
eh,
I had it pulled up. Now I'm having trouble finding it. I apologize. Um, Here we go. Smooth City
Smooth City.
by Kenny Koala, I believe it.
Yeah,
I could be mistaken. I'll find out in a few years. But Smooth City, tell us about this.
this is my debut graphic novel. I wrote and drew this one. Smooth City is the story of four best friends who have formed a boy band, and they're trying to make it big in the treacherous world of early '90s R&B.
You've said that a few times before, huh?
Maybe once or twice. Did it sound rehearsed? I was trying to be natural with it. That's hard. You gotta figure that. Listen, man, it is hard to describe what your thing is about, and then once you figure out the line that does it, I stick with it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
do you have any notes? Is there anything more that I can add?
Is the so well? I like where did I mean like you? I think we've talked about it a little bit, but like your love of hip hop, especially, it seems like '90s stuff. Like that seems to be your era.
It's about, yeah. I would say I peaked 93, 94, probably yeah, like beating Mortal Kombat. That was the yeah, no, man, yeah, but it's kind of a similar thing to Mad, and there's this Ray Bradbury quote. People ask, "What's the golden age of science fiction?" He says 12,
Hmm.
because there's just something about those things that you encounter at those formative years. I do think the music is objectively amazing,
Yeah.
but if I had, if it hadn't been, it would still probably be really personally important to me. So, yeah, I just had this story and boy bands. You see it coming back now. A lot of the '90s color schemes and a lot of the music is coming back. And boy bands, or like K-pop, it's like a new shape, but it feels very familiar to me.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about that, and I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna make a mini comic about like a boy band that's like secretly a group of super spies. And my wife was like, "You're doing too much. Like, the music business is crazy already, and there's so many stories there, and just being like, tell a story about the band. Just like they seem interesting already without the extra layer." So I was like, "Oh yeah, you're probably right." And it was like we use that word sincere
Mhm.
earlier. It definitely applies to this, because there is that music was all about. It's like the first time, like the only time in the '90s that you could show like an emotion and be cool.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't be cool and cry in 1995. That wasn't, but you could if you were in an R&B group or a boy band. So yeah, so I was just thinking about that era, and there's just I kind of I do some work in the music industry. That's part of another why it's like these worlds colliding. Before I wrote for Matt, my first time I ever got paid to write was like a rap magazine. So
What
I've got
magazine?
it was called Juice Magazine.
Nice.
Another story. I got a trail of magazines that don't exist anymore. Maybe it's me. But so I had this idea, and I made a mini comic, and I brought it to San Diego Comic Con, and it got a great response. I didn't expect. It felt like a niche thing, but of course, the people who are coming to my table are kind of already like-minded. I do a lot of music-related projects already, so
Mhm.
it was kind of perfect for them, and it got such a good response. And then Amanda Meadows, who was an editor, thought I should try and pitch it as a graphic novel, like a full whole ass book. And I was
Yeah.
like, what? And yeah, I got to work on it. Started working on it maybe a few years ago, and it took about 2 years work on, and it came out earlier this year.
Yeah, nice. Well, and that's the thing about the music when you're a kid is, I mean, my dad, of course, thought all of his music was the best music. And then I learned about like that concept of survivorship bias. And it's like, oh,
Ah,
all of that good music, that's just all the shit that survived.
right. Yeah,
And there's just seas of garbage from where
exactly.
you grew up. Like, are you kidding me? And so, but I have like this feeling about my music, and like, uh, yeah, that sort of that very strong connection to being 12 years old,
Yeah,
hearing whatever the band is or whatever group it is for the very first time. Um,
yeah.
it is like that's the most powerful thing.
Yeah, so this is like a blast from the. I think, I mean, my younger people are. It's a YA book. People who did not know anything about this era are
Yeah,
reading it and responding to it, but it is going to the mall. You know what I mean? It's not having a cell phone. It's they record their demo in a mall karaoke booth,
yeah,
which which is like, for a younger person, like, I got to explain to you what a tape is, possibly what a mall is. I don't know. But that was a real thing. That's really how people got contracts. That wasn't like, I didn't totally make that up. That was sometimes how it got done.
yeah.
And yeah,
I
and
had
they
a
go on these tours throughout the South, and they're doing these little venues that are kind of similar to where I grew up. And um, yeah, it's just a fun story. But there's a little bit of my mad sensibility in there, and then there's a little bit of nostalgia for that era mixed in.
Yeah. But you were talking about like the recording stuff. My buddy, I remember he was a musician and he got a 4-track cassette recorder,
Yeah.
and he was like so psyched about it. And he was trying to like explain to me, he was like, so the guitar goes in this one and this one, and I put the cassette
Oh,
in, and then he could record his own stuff. And it was just like,
yeah.
it's like that. It was sort of mind blowing to me because I was like, this is how music is made. Like,
Yeah.
it was just
th-
like, this could be in your house.
yeah. And I mean, and now it can be on your phone, on your laptop, and
Yeah.
immediately out into the world. But the analog stuff is really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I don't reel to reel, and like, that was tape. That was a physical thing, and the music was somehow on it, and I still don't understand. Seems like wizardry. It makes less sense than digital music when you really stop and think about it. Like, I understand iTunes, I don't understand a vinyl.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick a needle on this wobbly thing and sound's gonna come out.
Well, listen, when I was a kid, though, I don't know how old you are, but I think there was some overlap. I think we're similar in age. But my daughter brought a magnet, like set a magnet on the counter. It was real, like near my phone. I was like, get it away. But apparently that's not an issue anymore.
Is that not a thing anymore?
I guess not, because my wife has like a magnet on her phone that she can like attach to things. But in the floppy disk era, it's like, if you, like, teachers saying, if you bring a goddamn magnet to this school,
Yeah.
you are out.
Yeah, you can just. So our generation is going to be known as like, we are afraid of magnets.
Yeah, get that away.
Yeah, because you erase your whole thing, or like, and also, why were there magnets everywhere? Because every kid used to have a magnet. I don't even know where do you get magnets, but I had mad magnets. I just was like, refrigerator magnets, toy magnets.
And
You
it
put
was
it up to the. You ever put
apparently,
to a tube? You put it up to a tube TV,
yeah, and like,
and like it
yeah,
would like warp the colors. And
yeah,
I don't know what happens if you do that now, because I'm afraid of magnets, and I would never bring one into my
never.
house.
So it's like we have
But
this thing, we have this tool, a magnet that can destroy our entire infrastructure, and it's like, put them everywhere, put them on the fridge where kids can get them.
yeah,
What were they thinking? So people, people can buy that. I have this, if they want to support you, they can buy it. And I have the link to it on Amazon. If you go to the Simon and Schuster website, like I'll bring up right now, it's there, and they have links to everything. Books A Million, that still exists.
Books A Million's still around. What?
Yeah, apparently.
Used to be hot.
I am curious as a creator, like I'm assuming that you have ideas coming up, like what's coming up next in your mind? Is there anything percolating that now that you've completed this project?
Yeah, for a lot, finally, I had to do some interviews right when it released, and people are like, "What's next?" And I'm like, "Oh, take a nap or something. Did we not just talk about this book? Did you just forget the book we just talked about?"
Well-earned rest is what's next.
My next project is about the power of rest. It is going to be a children's book that I'm illustrated, and I'm collaborating with a friend that we do a lot of all ages comics together. This is going to be not really satirical or hardcore comedy. It's going to be more like a children's illustrated book, and
Yeah.
that's what it's about. Because the year that we've lived through, I think it's just important to talk about that. I mean, a lot of things, but understanding the importance of, there's this hustle culture, this grind culture. Keep pumping out the content.
Yeah.
But part of that process and part of life is not doing a damn thing, and that's okay. So I'm going to make a project about taking a break, and then I'm going to overwork again.
Yeah.
I'd like to do more just writing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to do some bookie books, and then I'll probably make a comic. It's like I'm just stubborn. It's not like, I don't know. I just draw because I'm just too stubborn not to. So I don't have any comics in the works just yet, but soon.
Yeah. Wait, okay, this is kind of unrelated. What were you into like comic wise?
Oh man. So I was like a 90s comic kid, and it's hard to, I mean, what wasn't I into? I really liked to jump all over the place, but my main things, if I could get it every month, were anything X-Men, anything.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, anything. I definitely was reading a lot of Batman, a little bit of Superman. Green Lantern was kind of hot for a minute. I know you were more on the DC side. I was probably a little more Marvel, and then Image.
Yeah.
And those were what I was into as a kid. And it was like similar to Matt. I stopped in college, like high school, really more like high school. I just stopped reading. Well, I stopped reading altogether. Assignments, comics, just wasn't feeling it. But then it was later that I got into like, I come back, I start like I'm working a job, and like suddenly everybody I'm working with is into comics. And I'm like, what? Are people like, really? And they're like, you should check out what the X-Men are doing now. And I'm like, But I fell back into it, and I started reading those titles again. But then I started getting into like underground indie stuff. So I started reading like Daniel Clow's 8-Ball.
Yeah.
And that was like, there's enjoying a comic, but then there's reading a comic and being like, oh, I want to make a comic now.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of those ones that really got me going, because it was like this one guy who he wrote and drew everything, and like anthology style. And so my first couple comic projects, I had this book called Tales to Suffice, and it was nothing like 8-Ball, but I mean, it was inspired by reading that kind of stuff.
I love that title, by the way. Tales
Thank
to
you.
Suffice.
Yeah, it's all right. I don't want to overpromise.
Yeah, I like to underpromise and never deliver. That's
that's what they say. And people are vaguely disappointed, but then they're like, well, that's on me.
They also get used to it really quickly.
Yeah. It's all about the condition. It's set the bar.
Yeah.
Where you need it to be.
Yeah. It's like Marge Simpson said to her kids, like, set the bar so low that when you fail, nobody will even care. But Kenny, thank you so much for coming by, man. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. It's
likewise.
Yeah. So thank you all so much for watching. This has been Flipping Through, the #1 Mad Magazine news, review, and interview channel. Toodaloo.